One, two, three, four.
Have you ever heard that phrase, jack of all trades, master of none?
Yeah.
That terrifies me. And I never wanted to be like labeled that. Like, oh, she does so many things, but they're all half-ass. And that's just the perfectionist type A personality in me. But what I'm learning, I think, or at least recognizing in quarantine here, is that I always went a different path because I just knew how to pivot really well. So I remember not getting casted and saying, well, that's cool because I'm going to write this anyway. Or going to write something and it not getting produced and saying, well, that's fine, then I'm going to produce it. So it's been kind of a series of different closed doors that make me pivot to a different direction and then try it on. And then over the years, that's just looked like my own company with 10 different shows and touring internationally. And I've done everything from have to create a light plot on my own to making my own Q lab, you know, so all on the technical side of things, as well as, man, I really want to do a Chinese fan dance in this moment. So I'm going to take a Chinese fan dance class. I am associate artistic director, and I actually share that role with another associate artistic director, Noah Himmelstein. So essentially what we've done is kind of made a trifecta between the artistic director and the two of us so that we can kind of all do a huge brain think on artistic decisions and collaborations that focus on everything from new works to really making sure that we have a strong stance and pledge on EDIJ, which is the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Justice initiatives, so that we are up to par in terms of practices and standards in the industry, which are changing rapidly as we speak. You know, it's really nice to be able to be back in my hometown. I'm from Baltimore, and as a teenager, I went to shows at Everyman. It's the first professional theater to hire me, my first equity contract. So it's kind of one of these full circle things too, where I am a product of the city and of this theater company, and then to be able to come back and continue to move it forward, you know, felt like a good fit. You know, having someone on the inside like myself have a seat at the table to be able to point out different things that they wouldn't necessarily be privy to is also really special. To be a woman of color, they haven't had a woman or a woman of color in one of these positions before. So it brings a total new awareness to the company and to what they do moving forward. I also just bring authentic Baltimore to the table, but down to the day-to-day stuff, it looks like heading the EDIJ committee. It looks like reading a crap ton of plays to figure out which new works we're interested in. It also looks like being mindful of the representation at the theater and that all voices are not only heard, but actually given agency and power to make choices and decisions. And something else that's really close to my heart is to make sure that youth really feel like they have a spot there. And not just in the community engagement and education department, but in all departments. So that if someone is interested in pursuing this field as a career, that they feel like they can start their training at Everyman. I love that, I believe it's a Toni Morrison quote. I'm not going to be able to do it any justice in this moment, but it's essentially like, once you have a seat at the table and once you have power, it's your job to reach back and who is behind you or who is below you and pull them up to sit next to you. And that really sums up for me what I want to do with Everyman, because being able to fulfill my own art with my own work is one thing, but then when you're a part of an organization like that, I think it is very much my duty to make sure that the door remains open. And like you said, to anybody who wants the access. And you know, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be overnight. Art has several roles in a moment like this. I think one, as a documenter, we are always known to be the great kind of historians in a way, because of the songs, the music, the plays, the poems that are going to come out of this will say a lot about what it was like to live in this time, but in an authentic way. But then I feel this, like, more and more this pull for examination, because if our government doesn't tell us to examine something, or if, you know, we're looking to these different things to tell us what to do about them, when really we as artists can do that. Examine, expose. And I think all of that's happening naturally, just with it being a health crisis, but even more recently with a racial pandemic and injustices and social ills, where the arts are really able to illuminate these things. We all know that from very adverse situations, amazing art happens. So just like there's the Renaissance period and all these different, you know, the Reconstruction era, they'll be like, and then there was COVID 2020, and we got these amazing bodies of work from artists from all different genres and mediums, that look like, yeah, struggle and strife and hitting bottom, but also how we overcome. I think theater looks like, on the other side of this, yes, something that has been completely dismantled and rebuilt with a whole new wave of thoughtfulness that really looks to being as equitable as possible for all parties involved. I think now more than ever, we're seeing that theater, well, theater in this past century anyway, got super duper capitalistic, in that it started to take shapes and structures that look like, you know, hierarchies and bureaucracy. And there's still this thing where producers are getting millions and millions and millions of dollars, but the person on stage whose sweat and tears that it's built on, you know, aren't even making livable wages. Then obviously on the racial side of it, the systemic side of it, so that looks like more, again, equity in terms of designers and creators and makers and writers and performers against, I mean, up against everything, LGBTQ, as well as BIPOC, as well as, you know, it should be as equal as possible. And being able to really start to craft a new history where we really uphold what we currently look and feel like as Americans and as American theater. Theater that really embraces, you know, wanting to do right by everybody who can come and see it. It looks like a theater with more accessibility. It looks like a theater that looks more like everyone who's coming to see the shows. It's not based in elitism. And it's also not based in traumatic and harmful practices. I don't know if I speak for you, but I feel like the majority of theater artists I know have been traumatized by different practices. Just auditioning can be traumatizing. Just being in a rehearsal room with, you know, someone with an ego can be traumatizing. But now really looking at theater as a true, safe, and creative space.